Welcome back everybody to our third instalment of predictions for this season. Before we get into the championship, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the like button so you do not miss out on any further football videos we have this season and further prediction videos as well. Premier League, National League, all still to come. But let's get to the championship then. Very tough to predict this league. Who will leave, who will come in. It's all been left late. The fixtures are just round the corner, but with the transfer window open until October, you can see the squads changing quite a bit from what we've got at the moment. But we've done a prediction with how the squads are looking and how it looks like they will take a turn for the better or the worse in weeks to come. Very weird setup, but this is the first league prediction we're doing where every team completed the season last season. All played 46 games, lots of transfers have come in, lots of transfers coming in. Do us a favour, comment below who you think your favourites are for the championship. But let's get into our predictions to find out who we think might finish bottom. And that side we've got is Wycombe Wanderers, which comes probably as no surprise. One of the favourites to go down. Not a lot coming in so far for Gareth Ainsworth. McCarthy's returned. Ikpeazu is coming up front. The former Cambridge striker is coming from Hearts in Scotland. But I think the one thing Wycombe have got going for them next season, the big players won't like coming up against them. Ainsworth sets them up to frustrate the big oppositions, and it generally works. You've got to look how well Ainsworth's done. What a journey Wycombe have been on. One of the managers of the season last year in England, that's for sure. What the job he did to get them out of that league with all the big clubs that are in League One still. I just think it probably comes too far for players like Charles Akinfenwa. Can they make a step up? Time will tell, but I don't personally see it. So Wycombe, for me, unfortunately, finishing bottom of the pile next season. In our predictions last season, Luton Town were obviously one of the sides that you knew would make a good fight of it, staying in the Championship. Nathan Jones wasn't there. They did make a very not bad start, and then it slowed right down. But the way they finished the season was fantastic. When Jones returned, and a lot of fans probably have forgiven him for that walkout to Stoke the season before last. But I see Luton struggling again this season. Yes, I do. And they're one of my three to go down. Just Clark coming in so far from Accrington Stanley, one of their high performers last year. And he is a good player, Clark. Already scored in pre-season as well, I believe, for the Hatters. Sonny Bradley's been a rock for them in the league. But they've lost two key players in that run-in that they had last season. James Bree at right back and also Carter Vickers have returned to their parent clubs. James Collins had a fantastic season last year. 14 league goals. More than I expected him to get in his first step up to that level. But I feel Luton will struggle again this season, providing they don't bring any more names into the club. My third side to go down might be a bit of a shocker. I've gone for Queen's Park Rangers, and the reason I've gone for them is the news that came out yesterday with Eze leaving to go to Crystal Palace. Will they invest that money back into the squad? Regardless if they do or not, Eze is a massive player to replace. On top of that, they lost Hugo from last season, who bagged in loads of goals. And on top of that, Wells left in January last year from his loan spell, and he's a massive miss. So if you take out from January last year Hugo, Wells and Eze, that's a big void for QPR to overturn. They've spent a bit of that money. 2 million spent on Lyndon Dykes, comes in from Livingston, the Australian who has recently just been called up for the Scotland national team. Will need to hit the ground running in this division. They've still got a few decent players, not most notably on the wing. Bright, I'll say Samuel definitely lighted up Loftus Road a few times last season, but I feel QPR are going to struggle next year, as I feel a few clubs will. But QPR are my third choice to see League One the year after. So we've got the three that are going down. Who else will struggle but just have enough to stay up? Well, I've gone in 21st place for Rotherham United. Promoted last season. Would they have got promoted if the whole season played out? No one's going to know, but I'm sure Rotherham don't really care. They were in second place after the points per game came on, and they were the team that took the promotion place. They've brought in some good players. Mikael Miller comes in from Hamilton from Scotland. There's competition for Ladapo, Smith and Vassell up front with the addition of Kieran Sadlier, who comes in from Doncaster. A very good season for him last year. McDonald and Harding come into the defence as Warne tries to strengthen that position and ensure that Rotherham don't go back down to League One at the third time of asking from this division. In the 16-17 season, they only managed to get 23 points and were relegated. And in 18-19, the year before last, they got themselves 40 points, but it still wasn't enough to keep them in the division. So, they'll be looking for third time lucky Rotherham to stay in the Championship. I think they might just have enough. It wouldn't surprise me if they did go down, but I feel that Warne has got Rotherham by the scruff of his neck at the moment, and I think he'll do well. A lot of people have predicted Coventry City to be quite comfortable and, be very comfortable in staying up in the division. While I've got them to stay up, I don't think it's going to be all plain sailing for Coventry and, it's automatic that they will stay up. I see them struggling. They do have, very good players, and a lot of the big question will be if Matt Godden can step up. A prolific goal scorer at League One level and below. Very good, good striker for them levels, and he'll need to step it up like Collins did at Luton last season. But they do have the basis of a good squad. Morosi in goal is turning into a real top keeper, and he was a great signing for Coventry last year, and Mark Robbins just keeps doing an amazing job with the homeless side. A big fan of Jordan Shipley in the midfield. He's only 22 now, and I feel like he's coming on, and he'd settle in quite well, I think, to be a decent Championship midfielder. They've brought in a few players. Julian Da Costa comes in, an ex-Marseille youth player. Dutch experience in Gustavo Hamer comes in from Zwolle, who must have been watched a while over in the Dutch league. And 25-year-old Marcel Hildner comes in from Paderborn. He's a winger, ex-German under-19. Played in the third division in Germany last season, so they must have scouted him for a while as well. But they'd hope he'd hit the ground running and settle into England pretty quickly. I've got Coventry to stay up, but it will be a bit of a struggle for them. But I think they've just got enough. Up and down pre-season so far, 2 defeats, 1 win. But one little side note, it's very good to see Jody Jones get back, a top potential player years ago. Let's hope he can keep his rehabilitation going and can get a bit of game time for Coventry this season. But Coventry to stay up for me. One side guaranteed to be in the bottom 3 for the first few weeks of the season is Sheffield Wednesday. I've got them in 19th place despite starting the season with minus 12. I feel Sheffield Wednesday will have enough to stay up. I think when minus 12 not generally happens, and you look at Wigan last season with the minus points, it rejuvenates a squad. The manager does a lot of motivation, and he's got a lot of motivation for the players to try and overturn that. Can they be that side to overturn that margin and stay up? And I think the players in the dressing room they've got, I really do think so. I think if you look at it statistically wise, after 10 games last season in the Championship, third to bottom was Huddersfield Town, and they were on 5 points. So say Sheffield United win the first 4 or 5 games, they're pretty much chasing that pack already. Add that another 36 games on top, and they're more than capable of picking up a few more wins above the other sides. Fans' favourite Niuhu up front is still there. Barry Bannon, Harris. They've got the strong defence of Iorfa, Borna, Palmer and Lees. Added to that, for me, one of the signings of the season, very good in for Wigan last season. Che Dunkley comes in, top player for Wigan last season. And Izzy Brown comes in on loan from Chelsea. Adam Reach still there as well. Yes, they've lost a bit of experience. Fox, Fletcher joining the Stoke Revolution, Hutchinson, Winnall, Forestieri. People like Murphy and Wickham have had their loan spells ended. But Sheffield Wednesday, I think, will have enough to stay up. And their squad is decent. It's a mid-table Championship squad, and I think they're the carrot in front of them to overturn a minus 12 will spur the Hillsborough outfit on, and Wednesday to stay up for me. Staying in Yorkshire as we move up 1 place and we go to the Barnsley outfit. 2 defeats in 9 since COVID hit has really generated their survival into this division, and Barnsley done fantastic to stay up. Gerald Strudner has really galvanised that squad. He's got the dressing room singing on the same hymn sheet as what he is. And while they haven't brought money in, I think just Fraser so far comes in from Linz for £750,000 nearly. They've got a decent squad, and he's got them playing potentially pretty well at the moment. Connor Chaplin was a big highlight for them last season. A lot of goals from him following his move from Coventry. And, they've got a lot of youngsters that have gained a bit more experience that look quite promising coming through at Barnsley. Young styles, they've got Thomas, Ludwig, Williams, all coming through. And, potentially that year's more experience means they will be stronger next year. Barnsley, do they have the ability to finish a bit lower? Yes. Do they have the ability to finish much higher than 18th? I'm not too sure. 18th was, the highest I think I could see them finishing. But I think Barnsley have got enough to stay up next year, and it looks promising for them to stay up. The next side I've gone for, finishing a lot lower than what I predicted they would last season. Thought they'd finish inside the playoffs last year, Bristol City, and they had an absolute amazing start to the season and really just started drifting off after that. Dean Holden is the new man at the helm at Ashton Gate, and he will be looking to try and stamp his authority on this league. So far, just brought in Williams from Wigan. Naki Wells, who has hit a hat-trick already in pre-season, is going to be their main source of attack and goals. Surely Niuhu and Vyman chip in every now and then, and they've got some experience, but generally Wells will be that main focus for them, which means they've probably got too much to have a relegation battle. But I don't see Bristol City climbing up any trees and getting to the top of the table. Pereira has finished his loan, he's gone back, and you look around their squad, it's a generally comfortable Championship team. I don't see Bristol City challenging for the playoffs this year, though. We got a bit of a few question marks at our direction last season in predicting Huddersfield Town so low. I think we went around mid-table. In the end, they were finishing much lower than that. They had a disastrous season, and the Cowleys did not save that from getting any better. The Cowley revolution didn't work out, so they've now turned to their new coach, Corberan, under 23 manager at Leeds United. Seems to be the in thing at the moment. A lot of names that aren't banded about for these jobs seem to be picking them up. Latest one is Corberan at Huddersfield. He's got a big job on his hands. They've let go of a few usual suspects. Colin Kwana, Kachunga have gone, and obviously the loan spells of King, Smith Rowe and Chalobah have all dried up, and they've gone back to their parent clubs. Ward has returned, one of the old success rates of Huddersfield Town. Ward was one of those, and he returns from Cardiff City. They've got good young players coming through, and it'd be interesting to see whether the coach who train younger players will give them more of an opportunity. Dehaney is there, an ex-Manchester City youth player. Matty Daly has signed a new contract. Will there be game time for players like Mika Obero and Jaden Brown? But the main man, Curlin Grant, keeping hold of him is vital. The team scored 52 goals last year, and he got 19 league goals in a struggling side. Says all about how pivotal he is to Huddersfield Town at the moment. They keep hold of him. They add a couple more bodies. They got potential to possibly finishing higher, but I don't see anything better than 16th for Huddersfield next year. The next team I didn't really know what to do with. Aitor Karanka will know which players he wants, and will he get much of that money to spend from Jude Bellingham's deal to Borussia Dortmund? They've brought in George Friend so far, very good experience from Middlesbrough. Terrell comes in from Hull, and you think Birmingham will probably be able to look at a bit more higher ender players as well, getting them in with the money they got in from Bellingham. They're desperate for a goalkeeper. They're battling for Jonathan Lecco, the West Brom winger, and that would be a decent signing. He was at Charlton last year. So at the moment, Birmingham squad is relatively where we need to put them, 14th, 15th kind of place. A couple of additions. Could they challenge? I'm not too sure this season. I think it will take Karanka a little bit of a while before he's quite happy with what squad he wants. While not really knowing what to do with Birmingham, we've put them in 15th for this season. Big fan of the team in 14th, especially Michael O'Neill. I think he's pretty decent, and he really has come in and changed Stoke's fortunes a little bit last season. Yes, they had a couple of results which were pretty damaging and embarrassing, but they comfortably stayed up, finishing in 15th last year, when at the start of the season it didn't look like they would survive at all. He's brought in some experience. James Chester permanently from Aston Villa. Fox and Fletcher have come in from Sheffield Wednesday, and that man pictured John Obi Mikel, ex-Chelsea, stays fit, has got a good battling and engine inside, and that would only enhance their midfield, Stoke. And for me, they've still got a lot of them high earners that are in. that really have just flattered to deceive over the years, and trying to get them off the wage bill must be one of O'Neill's projects this season. But with their contracts running down, that won't take long. But I don't see Stoke challenging this season. He won't have the money or the wages to spend until those high earners leave. So, there's opportunities for young players to play, like other sides. We saw the rise of Oakley Booth and Josh Tymon. Hopefully I said that right. Coming through at Stoke. Would these players be getting opportunities next year? He's gone for experience in the transfer window, O'Neill. Let's hope it plays off for him. But I see them, finishing in kind of the same area they did last year. So just before doing this video, one of my shocks for this season were going to be Reading, and I think they still had the potential to finish above 13th. But obviously Mark Bowen was who I was looking at as being a Reading manager, but the news coming out the last few days, he looks like he's moving upstairs, so still staying with the club. And in is coming a new manager, Serbian Veljko Paunovic, who comes in, the ex-Chicago Fire manager, an ex-Atletico Madrid and Hanover player, is going to be coming in. He's been given the charge at Reading Football Club for next season. They've got a bright squad. There's a few players that have been released, and they've obviously lost Pele, who's gone back to Monaco, who played a lot last year. Ajaria, they lost him on loan, but it looks like he could be coming back permanently on a 4-year deal, and that would be a big signing for Reading. But up front, they've got goals. Puskas, João and Baldock, all capable of scoring goals, especially Puskas on numerous occasions last year. They got that holding role in midfield of Swift and Rinomhota. Mate on the wing just gets stronger every single season, and players like Liam Moore at the back are always going to be pretty solid. I think, Laurent coming in from Shrewsbury as well, he's probably playing at the right level now. Definitely was a lot better than the rate he was playing at Shrewsbury, and that showed in the Liverpool games in the Cup last season. I think Reading are going to shock a few next season, and mid-table I've gone for the Royals. One team that has the potential after the window to be a bit higher is AFC Bournemouth, but for now I've got them in 12th. I think Jason Tindall's got a massive job to turn this round and fit the footsteps of Eddie Howe, who they lost at the end of the last season. So far they've already lost Ryan Fraser, Ake to Manchester City, Ramsdale, Daniels, Ibe, Harry Wilson's gone back to Liverpool, and you're probably looking at potentially Callum Wilson, King and Brooks leaving as well. And that's all their star players, and no matter who you bring in, it's going to be tough for them. Is Tyndall going to be able to attract the players that can come into Bournemouth and try and make that return to the Premier League? Experience is key for them, and they have still got that in Steve Cook, Gosling, Stanislas, and strong players like Lerma and Billing in the middle are not going to let anybody down. But I think Bournemouth is going to be a bit of a transitional year, and it's going to be a big season. They probably look late with Eddie Howe leaving and Tyndall coming in at possible transfers coming in. So I think other players will be more prepared for the Championship and know what it's all about. Whereas Bournemouth coming down and also losing majority of their heartbeat of their squad. I think Bournemouth are going to struggle a little bit next season, but be comfortable enough to be in the top half. So Middlesbrough in 11th. I couldn't go in the top half without having Neil Warnock side in it. Rejuvenated Middlesbrough like he did it like every club when he came in and took over from Jonathan Woodgate last season at struggling Middlesbrough. Hall comes in from QPR, who knows all about, and they've let a few go. Some of the bigger names, Ayala, Shotton, Gested, Clayton and Friend have all left Middlesbrough this summer, and you'd fancy Warnock to probably bring 2 or 3 faces in that will freshen up that dressing room. Aston Belonga, keep him fit. He's guaranteed you to hit plenty of goals. And Warnock type players, Johnson, Saville, Tavernier, they will really thrive on working underneath someone like Neil Warnock. He always does a decent job. Have they got enough to push for the playoffs? Depends who else they bring in, but at the moment I'd say no. But they definitely wouldn't struggle like they did last season, not under his leadership. So I think Middlesbrough can be a bit more comfortable this year without having too much expectation of being near the top. So now we get to that playoff chasing pack. The first I've gone in the top 10 is Cardiff City, last year's playoff semi-finalists. And you know what? Neil Harris has done a wonder job at Cardiff City. Very much questioned by their own supporters when he came in from Millwall. but he's done the top job, and Cardiff, didn't look out of place in that playoff position last season. I feel like there's other clubs better adapted at the moment to finish above them next season. However, you wouldn't be surprised if they did make it. Also, Tutu comes in on loan from Arsenal, and they brought in Kiefer Moore from Wigan. Scored a lot of goals for Wigan, especially on the run-in that unfortunately got them relegated. And Harris had a very good year. Their holding in midfield is key, and if they keep players like Volks and Marlon Pack playing on the levels they were playing last season, they will be there or thereabouts this season. Plus, they got the quality of Murphy, Hoylett, and Rawls. Not to mention the defence of Bennett and Nelson, who pretty outstanding for this division. Nelson really has taken it to like a duck to water in this division. And while they've lost Danny Ward, I don't think Cardiff fans would be too fussed with Kiefer Moore coming in. Probably be able to fill the amount of goals Ward did last season. But I've gone for 10th for last season's playoff semi-finalists. I think Tony Mowbray is really going under the radar about how much of a good job he's doing at Blackburn at the moment, and I see them getting stronger again next season, potentially with a playoff push. I've got them in 9th place next year. One thing you can't fault Mowbray for is giving youth a chance, and it looks like with pre-season so far he's continuing to do that. Look at the amount of youth players and young players he's using. Ranking Costello's coming through. Travis was obviously breaking through last year. They've got John Buckley, Davenport, Hayden Carter, Brennan. There's a lot of youth players coming through. You add with the quality of Holtby and Rothwell as well in the middle, and the goals up front of Adam Armstrong, who is attracting interest from higher up. But if they keep hold of him, he's guaranteed a plenty of goals. Goalkeeper was an issue for them, but Thomas Kaminski has come in, 27-year-old goalkeeper, ex-Anderlecht and Genk goalkeeper. Looks like he's going to fill that position of being number one. But I think Blackburn will surprise a few next year. And I think them young players, as we mentioned earlier with Barnsley, and a bit more experience in the dressing room of being around the senior pros. We'll put them in good stead. And I fancy Blackburn to have a little flutter of a playoff push next season. In 8th, I've gone for Preston North End. 9th place last season they finished. Only 4 points off the playoffs in the end. This is Alex Neil's 4th season at the club, and every year they seem to look a lot stronger. No ins yet. They potentially could bring 1 or 2 in before October's deadline, but they have a good squad, and a squad that hasn't really been broken up this year, and they have the experience of playing together for a long time now. Barkhausen up front, along with a handful of players that can score goals, and rotational players up front like Stockley, Harrop, Maguire. Scott Sinclair came in last season, and there's also the quality of Gallagher, Brad Potts, and Daniel Johnson, who for me is an outstanding player for Preston North End. With Bauer at the back, Preston are a strong outfit, and you can't, regardless of the players that they brought in, you can't look past the fact that they will be near the top positions next season. Who else are going to miss out on the playoffs? I've gone for Derby County, more than capable of being in that top 6 with a very good squad. Matt Clark coming back is massive for them. The player of the year comes in from another loan spell from Brighton, who he still hasn't played for. This is his 2nd season since leaving Portsmouth for Brighton, but he will spend it at Pride Park. And they will look for the form of Wayne Rooney in pre-season to get the best out of the young, hungry players they've got. 1 defeat in the first 9 games when Rooney came in. He obviously took a bit of a hold on that dressing room, and they upped their game a lot. A few defeats creeped in after the COVID break. But big fan of Bielik at the back, and he's been injured since January. Not too sure on what his timescale will be coming back. Marshall's come in goal from Wigan, and they've also signed a bit of an experienced centre back in Mike Taveric, who's a Dutch under-21 player, comes in from Groningen. I'm sure Koku probably knows all about him. And we touched on the young, hungry players that Rooney will try and have an influence on, and he probably has already. Jason Knight looks like he's going to be a good player, and Louis Sibley is going to be involved in the first team this year. On top of that, Jaden Bogle, Max Bird. These type of players are all coming through at Derby, and that's why we know that Derby will be there or thereabouts and will be challenging to get into the Premier League next season. So the first side inside our playoff positions is recently relegated Watford. Will Watford make the season without getting any managers sacked. Well, if they did, it will be a whole season in charge. For Vladimir Ivic comes in from Maccabi Tel Aviv in Israel. I think, Watford have got the potential to be mid-table and the potential to be in the top two. I feel so a playoff place, it kind of hits it in the middle. Potentially, they'll lose some of their big players, Decore, Dini, Sarr and Delafeu. That's a lot of their decent attack gone for next season. But they do have, Andre Gray, Hughes, Chalobah, Cleverley. And at the back, obviously, defensively, Dawson, Cathcart, Capoue holding in midfield. It's still a very strong core and nucleus of their side. Players returning from loans could help them out, and no more so than the deputy named Luis Suarez. Not the Luis Suarez, but a different guy. Got 19 goals for Zaragoza last season in Spain. He returns from a loan spell. Will he get a chance at Watford next year? And will we see young players like João Pedro, the young Brazilian, get a chance at Watford next year in a league below the Premier League? Ivic has got a few weeks to sort out any players he would like to bring in with the money they'll probably generate from sales. So for me, Watford just inside the playoffs, but don't think it's going to be plain sailing for the Hornets. One team I think will be very strong next season, Swansea City, last year's playoff semi-finalists who nearly got to that Wembley stage. I think they could put on a real fight to return to the Premier League, the Welsh outfit. They look very strong and they could potentially, really push the top two. Jamal Lowe looks set to sign, as talking at the moment from Wigan. So that's another good player coming in. He, really, after struggling to settle into the Championship, he looked a different player after January, back to his form he showed in League One. Steve Cooper has really impressed so far at Swansea, and I like him very much indeed. Ryan Brewster's going to be a big miss. There's no chance of him coming back. He'll be playing Premier League football next season, I'm sure. But they do have Ayew up front to bang in the goals. Woodman is returned and he stays in goal following his loan spell. He comes in again from Newcastle United. Guehi returns as well from Chelsea. And Corey Smith comes in from Bristol City, and he will try and, create the void that's been made from Gallagher returning to Chelsea, who was a real top player for Swansea last year and also for Charlton at the start of the season. But one of the signings surely has got to be Morgan Gibbs White. Surely good enough to be right at the top end of the Championship. If he stays injury-free all season, he's got the potential to be one of the best players in the league. A lot of ability for him, and Swansea looks stronger having him in the middle. So Swansea, for me, 5th place. The next side inside the playoffs might be a bit of a shocker and might be punching above their weight, but I've gone for Gary Rowett's Millwall to finish 4th next season. I think Gary Rowett's getting back to the level that we all knew this manager, this highly rated manager, was capable of. Tarnished his reputation, did he, a little bit, walking out on Birmingham them years ago? Potentially. Didn't work out for him at Stoke. Doesn't work out for everyone at every club. But at the moment, Rowett, with his 43% win rate at Millwall and 8th place last season, can push on from that. On top of Matt Smith's 13 goals last season, they've brought in Troy Parrott. And while there's a little bit of controversy off the pitch regarding Troy Parrott from reports, what a player he's got the potential to do. A little player called Harry Kane also spent a bit of time on loan from Millwall, and Troy Parrott definitely has potential to be a top striker in England, and Tottenham think a lot of him. But he's chosen Millwall for this season to play football, and if that takes off, Millwall will be firing up them league with Wallace and quality in midfield. Thompson, Mahoney getting into his groove as well. And at the back, Hutchinson and Cooper have been absolutely sensational for Millwall last season. I think Millwall will be a bit of a dark horse, and I see them inside the playoffs next season. So 3 teams left. You'll know if your team hasn't been called out. So who have we got in that final playoff place? You will now see that we have gone for Brentford in 3rd place. This much potentially is, I think the knowledge that they're attacking 3. Not all 3 of them will be lining up for Brentford in their new stadium next season. Potentially none of them. That would be huge. And if they lose all 3, top 6 will be a big ask for Brentford this season. We tipped Brentford to be in the playoffs last year, and they really should have dominated at the end to get that promotion to the Premier League, just missing out. But they're a strong outfit, and from in goal all the way forward, regardless if you take one or two of them attacking players out, they should be good enough to stay out there. Thomas Frank is really developing a good team. And obviously, you look at young De Silva, called up by England under 21s now. Rico Henry, you need to keep hold of him. One good player they brought in, Good, has come in from Northampton, a real solid outfit for Northampton last year, and Good was main reason behind their promotion. Solid centre half, and the experience with Janssen at the back will only enhance his reputation. So Brentford for me for third. I don't see them keeping, two or three of their attacking three, which means I don't think they'll quite be top two. But Brentford will be challenging again next year, because you can guarantee that they'll have a backup ready to come in to replace at least one of those players. So, promoted to the Premier League. In second place, I've got Nottingham Forest. You need a squad for this division, and Forest have it. They absolutely bottled the playoffs last season. No win in their last 6. Only 2 wins in their last 11 games last year. The COVID break really didn't help Forest, and they didn't come back looking anywhere near strong enough to mount a charge to the playoffs, and missed out on the last game of the season. They've got plenty of experienced players in their team, and on top of that, young players like Yates have gained a lot more experience over the time. But they've got goals everywhere in the forward line. Lewis Graben, 36 goals in his last 2 seasons in the Championship, and also the threat of Lolly and Cash that always come in with some goals as well. And they've added that man as well. Lyle Taylor comes in from Charlton Athletic. Fantastic addition. Got bang goals in for Charlton last year. To me, if he hadn't have left in the way he did, Charlton potentially would have probably stayed up with him up front. And also Tyler Blackett comes in from Reading, who's performed pretty well for the last couple of seasons in the Championship. Young Brennan Johnson they like a lot, and obviously he's got the potential. He played a little bit last year as well. But regardless of what players are coming through, the players they have got in that first 11, I think they can really go for it next year. And I fancy Forest for promotion. So that means champions have gone for a return to the Premier League for recently relegated Norwich City. One thing you can see from Norwich, they probably knew their fate was over quite quickly, even before they went back to playing football, and they really have planned their transfer window around that. They have lost none of their stars so far, pretty much, and still they've got Aarons and Lewis, their fullbacks. Will they stay there for the whole, transfer window? I'm not too sure. But they've still got Godfrey, Cantwell, Buendia, Pukki, Steeperman's there. Had a great return on his Championship when he was there a couple of years ago. And on top of that, they've brought in some very good players. Hugel comes in from QPR, scored a lot of goals last season, former Hammer. Mumba comes in from Sunderland, probably to play a bit more of a backup role. Polish wingers in. Placheta comes in. He says he plays personally similar to Raheem Sterling. So, if he's anywhere near that level, Norwich have got a very good player on their hands there as well. And young Kieran Dow comes in from Everton. What a player that is. Done very well last season. He's had very good, successful loan spells in this division with Forest and Wigan previously. And you add to that all the quality they've got, and they've still managed to bring in someone like Skip in on loan from Tottenham, who will really hold that midfield together. I don't see anyone looking past Norwich this season. They're the best equipped of the 3 that have come down. And I think, on top of that, will it be the year we see Adam Ida up front, the Irish under-21? He looks like he's got bags of potential as well. And, I fancy him to play a bit more next season. Norwich's squad is brimming with quality everywhere for this level. For me, Norwich champions. So there we have it. That is our final table for the Sky Bet Championship for this coming season. Who do you think we've, done very well in predicting would finish where they're supposed to be? And who do you think we've gone barking mad with? Who do you think that, potentially will have a better season than what we've predicted? And who do you think we've really hyped up and think they'll be a lot lower than what they did? And, give me your predictions as well. Who's your top 2? Who do you think will be your bottom 3? Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe for future videos. Premier League coming very soon. Thank you very much for watching.